Hey, I'm living from desire. We are doing a hot topic from Melody.
Hot topic.
So, what's the hot topic today?
um, the topic that we're starting off with is the uh, I suppose this is projection, where in I'm just noticing more in my interactions with people how easy it is for people to say, for all of us, I shouldn't say all of us, many of us to say things like, oh, this is just how people are, or this is just how humans are, when it's not true. That's maybe how I am, or maybe that's how you are. So, and let me think of an example. Like, um, okay, I'm gonna take do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I actually don't. I don't. I don't subscribe to that because my like the way that I would want people to interact with me is based on my own patterns and ways that my system registers as safe or as good, which is not necessarily what you register as safe or good or that person over there. And therefore, if I feel like if we always come at it with that Bible verse, because it's a Bible verse, it's more of a it's like a good self-protection mechanism that's not actually attuned to what's present. Because maybe, like, if I'm talking to Jason, maybe what Jason needs in the moment, maybe what's actually true in the moment, is not at all what I would want someone to do to me, but in this moment, it's what's needed for you. And it's like that. And so, um, okay, I'm like, oh, time to get really honest. I, I've, I lately I have felt very disheartened at noticing how many of my interactions with people have that kind of in front of it, where um, both that, like, people have that do unto others kind of viewpoint, and a blanket, like, oh, this is just how people are. This is just, of course, this person is going to react that way because that's just what people are. And it feels dismissive. It feels not, um, it doesn't feel true to the moment. It feels like a cop out way of just saying, it's like slapping on, oh well, they're just a narcissist, or they're just whatever other term is popular now. And it's like, that could be a pattern they run, but that might not actually be what's happening in this moment. It's like that. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
it's such an easy, like, I mean, if we it's like if you're sick and then you present a certain, like, list of symptoms, and the doctor's like, oh, that's just a cold, and then you kind of know, like, this doesn't feel quite just like a cold. I think it's related to this and that. Like, oh well, look at the symptom list, it's just a cold. And then, like, 5 days later you find out it's something totally different that could have been treated, or that kind of thing. It feels like that. and
I love
it
that.
and
That's a
it
cool
it
topic.
feels it like that kind of thing when I interact with people I very much love and care about. It like hooks my belonging thing, because I'm like, oh, wouldn't it just be easier if I just, oh yeah. oh yeah, that's that thing. Oh yeah, let me just do that. Then I wouldn't feel so lonely in those moments.
Mm-hmm. I not to take this into too dramatic of a direction, but oftentimes I'm watching The Chosen on Amazon Prime. It's a story of Jesus as him like as a wandering mystic, and Christianity didn't exist when Jesus existed. Um, it's like the Christianity is the structure that was sort of described and prescribed and placed around Jesus. Jesus's life. So I'm bringing that up because something interesting about that show is how often what Jesus is doing, he exists in a paradigm where rabbinic laws, are sort of the rule of the day. And the Pharisee, or the sort of like the priests and the rabbis, are the ones enforcing rabbinic law. And it's stuff like not working on Sabbath, or not having, a woman while she's on her period, she can't be in the streets. So there's all these rules, sort of religious law, that were enforceable at that time. I mean, at times by death. And what Jesus is doing is he's, instead of sort of settling for the law and being like, oh, it's just like, let's just rely on this law, he would always push for interaction beyond that law. So if a woman's bleeding in the streets, he would talk to her. He would interact with her, even though that wasn't allowed. Or there were circumstances where someone needed to work on a Sabbath. So they would work and they would eat. I think you couldn't eat too or something. And so it was fascinating because what Jesus was doing, meaning the person, the actual person, not the projection of do unto others as they would do unto you. It's like all of those rules can get in the way of actually being with another person. And so Jesus was someone who went beyond those rules to be with people.
And that's what's meant, I think, by be like Jesus. Yeah. I mean, since we're going a little this way, but I grew up Christian. I went to Christian school in my formative years. And the be like Jesus kind of thing was
what would Jesus do?
Yeah. You know what Jesus did? Jesus threw tables. Like, there's a bunch of things Jesus did that parents would not want kids to do, and yet parents are the ones who say that. I remember when we were little, my brother and I would challenge my mom with these kind of things. But
well, it's one of those things where people there's a whole, in one of these books that I celebrate greatly, there's 5 different types of trauma, and one of the types of trauma is this need to make rules kind of the end all be all of a person's life. And so it's literally a type of trauma where I seize up in the face of my life where things aren't matching my rules. And it's like things are only safe as long as it's matching the rules. And to think of that as a trauma is really interesting. It's like people who like the good, I don't want to necessarily talking about your mom, but like people are doing their best to do it right. But to think of doing it right or being a good person as a type of trauma, think about that. That's interesting. And trauma would be to say that it's something that doesn't actually serve you in living a life where you feel like met, happy, contributive, a success, etc. But that's definitely been the story for some time. Is like, how do you be? You go to school, you learn the rules, you learn how to be like a good, successful, contributing member of society. And then there's the question of like, well, is that in fact true? And if that were true, then how come there's so much stuff going on these days that we can't seem to agree on?
I mean, I also think that instead of, like, obviously like adults teaching children to be good people is not merely just for control. There's true, like, it's like we want people to be kind to each other, this and that. But I think the true, like the way that doesn't restrict truthful expression is learning how to, I don't know if maybe resilience is the word, but like nervous system stretchiness to be with any sort of impact, but also to be able to say things like no. It depends, of course, on what type of impact we're talking about. But I just find it so silly that it's like, oh, you need to behave. I mean, okay, wait, hang on, pause, because there is you can say, and these are all just my personal current outlooks, is I can say to someone, if you behave like this around me, I can't be here anymore. I can't do this with you. That's a personal boundary. But if it's like, if there's no consequence and I'm just like, you need to talk to me this way, because if you don't, then you're a bad person and I don't feel safe, and da da da. That to me is just so ridiculously silly. It's like,
well, in the erotic tradition, there's no such thing as boundaries, and there's no such thing as boundaries not because I don't want someone to know what to do and what not to do. There's no boundaries because they're like, if you go into your sensation body, there are no boundaries. Be an empath and you're going to feel what the other person's feeling. It's like there's no actual boundaries in reality. There's our awareness of what's happening and then being able to speak it and connect with another person about what's happening. And in particular, the erotic tradition, I think, versus a lot of other traditions, it's more focused on your yes than on your no's. And so it's more focused on your desire than, say, like safety and staying out of trouble and danger. Because the sense is like, if you know what you want, you just need to know the one thing you want. You don't need to know the 100 things you don't want. And like try to put up fences around the 100 things you don't want. You just need to know the one thing you want, focus on that, and then everything kind of self-resolves around you doing the greatest thing you want. It's like, but if you focus on the 100 problems and you don't really even know what you want, then all that happens is that you create more problems. And so boundaries, this whole term, this sort of psychological, and then I feel like kind of like a American Buddhist term, like meditation world, is focusing on no's. It's like focusing on, if I don't like how you're talking to me, how would I want you to talk to me? It's like, how, like, maybe I can describe how I would want you to talk to me. which also gets into another piece, is like people are doing the best they know how to do. And so we can often have this sort of boundaries perspective of keeping people out, believing that like avoiding or shunning things is somehow going to make it better. But if they don't actually know what to do, then we're here to teach them. It's like that's the other thing about desire and yeses. It's like if I know what I want, that means I'm responsible for creating it, which means I'm a participant. And I will go, to whatever lengths I need to do in order to make something happen as far as I can make it happen in my realm of control. And so it's like, if I know that I want someone to talk to me a certain way, then let me show them how to talk to me a certain way. Maybe I need to help them learn how to slow down and be present in their body and speak from their body instead of like this frantic head sense of them panicking because they're trying to be a good person.
Oh, I'm just saying that
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just talking.
I'm saying we have choice in every moment. At some point, I think like if I'm a person who just says no to everything, eventually I will find out that's actually hella boring, and then things start to open because I learned that. But
it's more than it's hella boring. Like you're suffering.
That's what I'm saying. Like you reach a point where you're just like, this is just bullshit. What I'm trying to say is like, we all have choice. I feel that we forget that often as adult human beings. We always have choice. A no is also a choice. You're not a better person if you say yes. You're also not a better person if you say no.
But yes is what I'm more saying is there's a yes in every no.
I agree with that, and I'm saying
you got to be way more specific. There's obviously like a particular instance that's
there's multiple instances.
You. So talk about one of them.
Well, I can't like.
Well, hang on. Jane says this or whatever.
Hang on, I'm just feeling into what it is. Okay, capacity. It's like I say no when I can feel that, and if you. I just said the sentence in my head and didn't finish it. I say no when I can sense that a certain like decision will take me out. As in, I'll go on autopilot, or I'll dissociate, or I'll react, and I'll just not be here anymore.
So what are you saying yes to?
Hang on.
Okay.
And I'm just prefacing I'm someone who says yes to a lot. Like
no. But what are you saying yes to because you said
I'm saying yes to being present.
So that you're saying yes to being present. That's all I'm illuminating in this.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. There's always, in every yes, there's also a no, right? If I'm saying yes to being present, I'm saying no to checking out.
Totally. And there's a lot more no's, but we don't have that bandwidth. But if you know what you want, see, the problem is people don't actually know what they want.
Yes,
that's why they don't think they have choice. It's because you want to be present. So there's a whole lot of things you're going to say no to because your yes.
Yes, good point.
But then there's a ton of people that don't know what their yes is. And so they're just floundering amongst all the options. And then they have boundaries, and they're just in pure reactivity, and then they're trying to they're trying to keep, Nicole Daedone would call arousal. They're trying to keep arousal down because they don't know what they actually want.
Oh. That's a good if I feel into like what I have said no to in my recent experience, it would be the things that take me out of arousal. And when I say that, what I mean is the things that I know will just like disengage me from this moment, like where I just know that I'll go numb.
Yeah, but then that's the opposite for some people, because they don't actually know what they want.
I'm saying we're saying the same thing, just
We're
different
not
ways.
arguing. We're illuminating it through talking.
Yeah.
And then what I'm also prodding you a little bit, that is whoever you're resentful towards or angry with or like silently arguing with, is notice if they actually know what their yes is. Or are they just trying to keep the arousal that you represent from interacting with their game of trying to stay in some sense of control? Like they just have a bunch of things that they know they're no to. They don't know what they actually want, though.
The situations that come to mind, the sense for me is that their yes is just so different from my yes.
So what's their yes?
It feels like a type of connection via comfort, via like protect my trauma kind of comfort.
So say more. Like what is their yes? They want to be this person.
They want to feel seen and heard and secure in the sense of like we're okay kind of secure. So I guess it's like whatever identities that we're both playing with each other, that remains the same.
Awesome. That's the thing you got to see. It's like they want it to, they're what they want is for it to stay the same. And so and they have a long list of things that would have that change. And they're fighting an impermanent reality. So it's a losing game. And then maybe there's a part of you that like wants to belong.
The biggest hook of all.
And so you're going to try to keep things the same, even though there's a bigger part of you that wants to know who you are in a more dynamic sense.
Yeah, and then that's where I feel that resentment, and it's not like, I mean, my pattern is also directing everything back into myself. So I might feel resentment outwards, but then it'll instantly like come back in. And then I resent the part that would give it up, would give up like the actual desire for, oh well, this is safe. I'm good here. Things are fine. Nothing's too jarring. And that's where I exhaust myself. And then I get pissed. And then I'm like, fuck all this.
Yeah. So I think I like these conversations because they narrow down the desire, meaning you can see what you want and then you can see what another person wants, and then there's not like a ton of misunderstandings. There's, meaning if you're holding that clarity, you can see what do they want, what do I want, where it doesn't work, and make new decisions based on that. But when we don't actually know what our yes is, like what we want, then it's just this globular mess of frustration until we get to the point where we really want to figure out why this isn't working. And I think that's the case with pretty much everything in life. It's like it's gotta kind of get to a frustration point or a breaking point for then deeper questions to be asked.
I'm a little stuck on like the yes no thing because I feel, and I'm speaking just from my experience, that it feels to me that depending on the type of pattern that we run individually, that to learn how to say no, even if it's like a close off from a bunch of other things, is required when you couldn't say no as a child. And I say this because I am fantastic at tolerating. I can take a lot through tolerating and make it just kind of be okay. But along the way, what I've learned is that, I mean, I get a lot of praise for being able to tolerate. People don't call it tolerating. I know what I'm doing.
I call it quiet Asianing.
See? So maybe I'm speaking for us quiet Asians here. But it's like, I mean, of course I'm thinking about a particular moment right now, but I had a clear moment recently where I knew in the moment, I was like, I could tolerate this shit. I actually did tolerate this shit. But for me, what it felt like I had to do for myself, that it's like, you know, like I do it for my inner child. I do it so that that part of me, that archetype in me, isn't always going to feel like I'm looking for someone else to protect me, because I will be that for myself. And so in that moment, I didn't do it in the moment. I did it after. But explaining how a certain behavior that was present in a situation, I was a no to that behavior being directed at me. And that there was a consequence, that if that happens, I can't be here anymore. And that to me feels like building trust with that part of me to help integrate that part back in. Otherwise, that part of me, and this is very true in my experience, is always going to be looking for that external safety.
Yes. And what did that internal part decide that it finally wanted more than belonging?
It wasn't the child that wanted whatever. It was what felt like present day me, where I didn't want the like underlying semi-conscious fear-based desires of the inner child who hasn't yet fully developed to run the show anymore.
Yeah, I love that. And so when I'm saying kind of yeses versus nos, it's like power you don't have power until you have your strong yes. And then there's all kinds of a cascade of all kinds of no's that can come in your life. But those no's only arise because you have a really strong yes. It's like my yes is like no more. It's like my yes is I want to be here. I feel this new energy in me. I feel this new way I can rely on myself. And so there's like a no more. There's like all these no's that then can cascade from that. And that's in contrast to like sort of leading with all the no's. It's like if you lead with your yes, it's like you already have you. If you get locked in on all the no's, then you're still in that dynamic with people.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. To being a yes to your desire.
Yeah. And like it's enough by itself. Meaning like I'm a yes to this. I'm a yes to this is the deepest yes. I'm a yes. And it's like you don't have to argue with people over that. It's yours. It's like no is a complete sentence. You could say no. You could say hell no. You can, if you're feeling generous, you can show someone how they would actually need to interact with your yes. There's a whole range of options if you can hold your yes really strongly. It's like wholeness, completeness, yes. Do you want to close it, sister?
I imagine we'll be back tomorrow with another talk. Breath work. But we haven't done that in 2 weeks. So we'll see.
We'll see if Melody's desire for breathwork reemerges.
Yep.
All right. I think so. I've been doing these writings every day because I just wake up and it's like there's a topic that wants to spill forth. I think I'm going to start posting those on like the ones that I wrote, I don't know, 3 weeks ago on social media. But I really like this pocket I'm in right now where I'm just writing because for me, like I have a really strong yes. And funny enough, I actually went to a event, which I might go to today. I went to an event last week and someone there was like, "Hey, your writings, they're amazing." And I was like, "What are you talking?" And I was like, "Oh, those things I've been writing, like you read those?" And he's like, "Yeah, every single one of them is like great." And I was like, "Huh." Had no idea. And I like that flavor where it's like I'm just doing I've got a big yes for me, and then somehow it's like magnetic or attractive to someone else. So that's the type of yes I'm hunting right now in my life, because I think I'm very good at even just like being slightly performative about things, which ends up being exhausting over time. All right. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.